I've been playing Arknights too much. Arknights Enfield, to be exact. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. So, if I could monetize stupidity, and honestly, I really should. I honestly should make this a regular occurrence on the channel where I compile comments. In this video, we're going to take one. But I honestly feel like I should start screenshotting some of the best comments out there that I see, and not just in my comment section, but on X or other social media platforms, and kind of compile them and show just how stupid people are. Like, I really should monetize stupidity. Because if I monetize stupidity and really capitalize on it, Elon Musk would be coming asking me for a loan. I'd be running the American economy. I'd buy Greenland. Because, and I know there are other content creators that monetize stupidity, but sometimes the comments that I find even blow me away. And when I read this comment, it just was like, it went from one extreme to the next to the next. And I have to show you. So this is going over the video basically about, like, it has the thumbnail about and all that, basically talking about the problem with the VTuber space in general. So I'll give some context as I'm talking about it, right? And it goes, at this timestamp, I can't agree with you. It's not men's fault for not wanting to follow and support female creators that is already taken. It just means they weren't good enough of creators to warrant interest and engagement. They were just women who seemed appealing. And see, this is where they're trying to present a somewhat solid argument, but then throwing it in the absolute most horrible pit of acid right there. Because this is something that I've talked about before, that one of the biggest problems with a lot of female content creators is that there are two types, right? There's multiple, but there are two types that I'm going to specifically talk about. You've got the ones that are open about their relationships. And there are many successful female content creators that are open about their relationships, of whether they're in a relationship with a guy, engaged or married, right? Married or even with kids. But there are many content creators that do fake being single so they can appeal to an audience that will build a parasocial relationship. And that's the kind of issue where I draw a problem with. Is it's not a problem if a chick is single, right? But one of the biggest issues, especially, and this falls on men, by the way. I love the way they try to not, like, it's not men's fault, but this is a guy's problem. Guys will sub to specific channels, particularly female content creators, that are single. And as soon as they find out the chick is not single, and a great example of this is, I've seen it happen regularly. Like, a female content creator will get a massive wave of growth. You know, she'll make some content, it'll go viral, she'll suddenly gain a bunch of attention, and then like a month later, she mentions about her boyfriend, and they're all like, oh, that new audience will go, wait, you have a boyfriend? And she's just like, yeah, I've always talked about him from time to time. And they go, unsub. And it's so stupid. And yeah, this is something that happens. And it shows that the fact is that, and by the way, just saying that doesn't mean that the content creator isn't appealing in general. Because I'm not appealing to everyone as far as content goes. Not everyone likes my content. Not everyone's going to like other content out there. But if your entire reason for subscribing to a channel or being part of a community is because that content creator is single, that is a men's problem. And this idea that you're going to chase some imaginary tooth fairy or imaginary unicorn out there in this pursuit, it's like, it is so delusional. And that is a guy's fault, because you're being delusional in thinking that you're going to be that one lucky guy out of potentially thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, depending on the size of the VTuber, right? It's so delusional in itself. Like, how can you be that dumb? Go to like a female VTuber that's maybe like 500,000 and be like, yeah, I'm going to be the lucky one out of all of them that's going to date her. Like, are you that insane? And that's why there is that counterpoint. There are a lot of VTubers that do pretend to be single because they want to build, or they force, or they make sure, I wouldn't say force so much, but I mean, in part, maybe, you could argue force, but some of these female VTubers will make sure they stay single. And there are specific, and it's not even just VTubers, there are some female content creators that I think deliberately keep themselves single so they can appeal to a wider male audience that finds them appealing enough, but the content just really isn't there. So as much as you're trying to go at this at the right place, it's like you're failing to understand the root of the problem is too layered. And that's something that I notice is going to be a reoccurrence, is that they try to blame women for all their problems. You do like many others and don't fully hold women responsible. Hold women responsible. My brain. But will bring up something to blame men for, just to go, well, men also do this one. You know what's really funny about that statement? I've been called a woman hater for being critical of female. Like, by the way, the video that they're talking about, I go pretty harsh on women in that specific video. And this guy is still trying to spin it like I should have been meaner towards women. And it's just like, the reason why they do this is because they want me to go after all women. And they want me to go, all women are bad. Women are evil. Ah. But it's like, reality is not all women condone this behavior. There are a lot of female content creators that actively call this stuff out as well. But now that there are female content creators calling this out and they're a bit more vocal because it's a little bit more socially acceptable, now they're getting called grifters and pick-me's and all the rest. I really think being called a pick-me as a female content creator is the worst insult ever. Because it's basically, you're just saying, yeah, you're more appealing because you're not that insufferable bee, right? It's like, yes, it's such an insult. Wow. It's like, you're basically saying, no, she should be an insufferable bee that's ugly and horrible and builds parasocial relate. Like, do you not hear yourself there? No, just talk about what women do wrong and hold them accountable without blaming Memphis. And that's exactly it. They just go, no, men can't take accountability for things. And I'll get into a bit more of that in a second. Why I do think some men need to be held accountable for this issue that has happened. Because as much as, yes, there are female content creators that build parasocial relationships, that do manipulate their audience, that do weaponize their audience, that do kind of try to clone this social power ladder that goes on within the content creator space and try to beat each other down rather than just working together. And we see that all the time. Like, female VTubers constantly do these Google Docs and they're all just trying to like beat each other down. And then you find out that actually the one that's made the Google Doc to destroy the other one is actually the insufferable bee that's like, okay. But because there is so much monetization to be made out of that drama, people will just pick whichever side will get them the most views. And so it becomes sort of like a cult. And it's no longer about actual logical thinking. It's more about emotional and optics. And that's why I'm generally very hated, is because I look at this from a logical standpoint and look at all the facts, look at all the variables and try to weigh them all up and come up with a reasonable answer of where things have gone wrong and how things can be improved upon. And I think it is in part men's fault as well that this has gotten the way it has. Because again, who is giving them the money? Mostly men, right? It's probably 99% men. So you look at specific female content creators and you see that, and it's like, men need to be more self-aware, and especially in those situations that I mentioned at the top, where they're going actively out looking for female content creators that are single so that they can try and chase them in that pursuit of being like, hey, I can be with her maybe. So they'll throw money at it, and then they'll build not just an emotional but a financial connection to them, because now they're financially invested, not just emotionally invested. And so it builds a very bad, unhealthy relationship. But you need to be self-aware enough to be like, oh, this is not healthy. Like, again, what do you want? Like an imaginary tooth fairy to sit on your shoulder and go, that's a bad idea. Maybe you've got some friends and family, but a lot of these people keep this kind of stuff secret. I had a friend, I always bring him up. It starts with S, the S guy. He used to throw money at VTubers and female content creators all the time, both groups. And to the point where he would be eating noodles, he'd be like dirt poor, just so he could continue giving them money. And he just built these weird relationships. I think he ended up canceling them all because I think he just couldn't afford anything. But it was such an I think also his family ended up finding out, because he kept it a secret. He ended up telling me at one point because he was broke. But it was just like, why? Why? This kind of thinking is from people who think simps are the cause of the modern women. I think they're partly responsible, yes, because simps have allowed this. But let's be honest here. If people weren't simping for Pokimane, she wouldn't exist. Let's be honest here. Because a lot of the reasons why these female content creators exist is because desperate men, and I understand why they're desperate, they're lonely and they want something to latch onto, but desperate men latch onto these chicks and they throw money at them, which gives them a reward structure. There was a situation where a shooting happened, and when it happened, a bunch of VTubers came out and said, oh, they missed. And when it happened, a lot of the male viewership got quite upset. They're like, hey, this condoning violence is not good. And the female VTubers attacked the male audience saying, oh, you're pathetic, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. And as soon as the money started dropping, they started losing followers, subscribers, income, you name it, and the potential of losing sponsorships as well, they instantly folded and changed their attitude. Now, have they actually improved? No, they're still the same person. They've just put a better mask on. But it demonstrates that when money is involved, these content creators will change. It's not just for females, it's males as well. The reward structure is the money. And who is giving these female VTubers or female content creators money? Mostly men. So yes, simps are partly responsible. You are the one fueling the war machine that is these content creators building these parasocial relationships. Yes, the female content creators are at fault for building it, but you're also fueling it. There is a two-way relationship here. And even with all these other people like myself and other female content creators and male content creators alike that point these issues out and point out these female VTubers that are doing these problems, some of you don't care to actually fix the problem because you're so deep embedded emotionally and financially invested, you don't want to. I could go out on a field day pointing out some of the massive glaring issues within the VTuber space and specific content creators. But I'm going to be honest, a lot of you listening to this don't want to have that conversation. Because when we have that conversation, you're going to realize there are glaring issues that you don't even want to admit to. Because in part, I think many people that think they don't still have a bit of a parasocial relationship with some of these VTubers out there. Rather than it being about the content, it's become something weirder and more just unhealthy. And again, I'm more specifically talking about female VTubers, but it isn't just exclusive to them. When they're just a symptom of the real issue, this is where it gets really good, which is women treating 80% of men like subhuman, then why do they keep giving them money? If men are getting treated like this, why aren't they doing something about it? Because we have social media problems as well. We have mainstream media, social media, other males that are guilty. It is not just a singular person at fault. You can't just throw all the blame on the female VTubers alone. Yes, they are at fault for doing that, those specific ones doing it, but men are also responsible that give money to them. Social media bully tactics and influence tactics, but also mainstream media has built this whole idea that men are evil and the patriarchy and all these other factors. So there isn't just one factor involved. It is a multitude that need to be looked at. A man does not choose to get hungry, but may kill for a piece of bread if he's starving. The problem is the hunger and starvation, not the killing itself. It's like, by the way, that is the worst analogy that I have ever seen. That is the worst analogy. You're saying you being horny is like starvation. They're very, very, very different things. Go find some Rule 34. Go to a website. If you're that desperate, that's a gooning problem, right? That is an addiction. If you need to go to a female content creator to get some form of cheap satisfaction, because that's what it is. You're going to a female content creator to try and replace the physical and emotional connection with another human being, and you're replacing it with pretty much a digital component. Because there's never going to be a physical or an emotional satisfaction. You're getting a cheap substitute. A very, very cheap substitute. I'm sorry. That's just perfect. That just sounds really sad that you're classifying being, I would say maybe loneliness to hunger. I sympathize with the loneliness and the desire and the need for human connection. But there are far, far better ways of going about it than going to female content creators. And that in itself proves why the problem has become so rapidly out of control. Because men need to not feed it. It's only going to continue. That's why OnlyFans accounts, like, they make millions of dollars. Some of these accounts, they turn 18 and they make $1 million in a day or a week or a month. There is a massive underlying issue when it comes to these problems. I know I'm a gooner. I like gooning. But I'm also self-aware, and I'm also acknowledging the underlying issues when it comes to some of these problems going on. And I would say I'm more of a, I don't know if you can really do the word normal gooner, right? It's more of a person that's not going to this extreme. This is unhealthy. I'm a little bit speechless because that is very, very unhealthy way of looking at it, and it's honestly hilarious. I get what you're trying to do, but it feels like you've just admitted that you are one of them and you don't want to take any personal responsibility for being that person that has helped make the problem worse. Get some help, okay? Stop. Get some help.